If we want to talk about the precision of some measurements, then we have a calculation we're going to do. So if we have some data, one of the things we can do is we will take the average of the values. Then we got to find the deviations, how far they are from the average. Then we're going to average those deviations. And then that's how we write the information. We say here's the average number plus or minus the average deviation. And that's how we report the value. So let's try it out. So in the interest of education, then I do have to test my blood glucose level. So I went ahead and tested it 4 times this morning just to make sure that we'd be okay. So what happens here is, that first time I did it, I got a 111. Second time I did it, I got 113, 109, 116. So I have 4 values supposedly of the same thing. So my first step would be to average those numbers. So I'll take a 111, 113, 109, 116, add them all up, and I get 449. That's my total. And I want to average, so I'm going to divide by 4, and that gives me 112.25. And I'm just going to use that 112. Now, second part of this, I'll change color, is I want to find the deviation. And what that means is how far is each number away from the average. So I'll say this next one here, I'll say, okay, 112 minus 111. And this one here, I'm going to do 113 minus 112. And here I'm going to do 112 minus 109. And then I'll do 116 minus 112. So what I'm doing is I just want to find out how far I am away from the average. I don't care whether it's too high or too low. I just want to see how far is it off. So I'm always taking my larger number minus my smaller number. So the 112 is bigger than there, okay, but this is bigger, and 112 is bigger, and this is bigger. So whichever is larger, I'm just going to subtract that from the smaller from the larger. So in this case, my deviation is 1. Here my deviation is 1. Here my deviation is 3. And here my deviation is 4. So those are the deviations. The last thing I do is I'm going to average my deviations. So 1 plus 1 plus 3 plus 4, that adds up to 7, 8, 9. And I want the average of those, so I'm going to divide by 4. And that comes out to be 2.25. So when I'm going to get done, I can say, well, how do I report my value? It's the average plus or minus the average deviations. So it's going to be 112.25 plus or minus 2.25. And here we're going to clean this up a little bit. And the idea is, I really only care about the first digit where there is uncertainty, because that's the end of my measurement. So I'm really going to stop at 2. So I'm going to round this guy off as well. So my final answer here is going to be 112 plus or minus 2. And the units on this are milligrams per deciliter. And I'm just getting that because I'm looking at my meter. So that's how I would take these. So again, we get the average. So the total divided by 4, I get the average. And that's the average of these 4 values. Then I find the deviation in each case, and then average that deviation. And my final answer is my average plus or minus my average deviation. So I would say that my reading here is 112 plus or minus 2. Now go ahead and for you to practice. So here's a problem from one of our worksheets. So just look this over. You want to take these 4 data values and figure out how are you going to report that. Okay, average plus or minus the average deviation. So take a minute and try that, then we'll go over the answer. Okay, first thing I'm going to average these numbers. 2.60, 2.70, 2.80, 2.70, and that comes out to be 10.8 divided by 4, that comes out to be 2.70. So my average value is 2.70. Now my deviation, so I can say 2.70, 2.60, the deviation here is going to be 0.1. 2.7, the deviation of 0. Here it's going to be 0.1. And here it's going to be 0. So my average of my deviations is going to be 0.2 divided by 4, so 0.05. So that's my average is 2.70, and my average deviation is 0.05, so I write it down that way, 2.70 plus or minus 0.05. The smaller this number is, the more precise, because the closer my values are to each other, and that's precision.